and welcome back to My Joyful Home. In today's video, as part of my Complete KonMari series, I am going to be walking you through the 3 steps that I encourage you to follow for each and every one of the 12 categories of tidying. Now, I have a lot to pass along to you in this video in terms of tips and recommendations, so it may feel a bit like information overload, and if that's the case, for your convenience, I've also provided a written breakdown of the 3 steps that I'm going to be speaking about in the description box below. So I do encourage you to still listen through the video, but also check out the information in the description as well. Now, before I begin walking you through the 3 steps, there's a couple of things that I also want to make note of. The first of which is sort of obvious, I think, but the KonMari method is a really big undertaking. And I'm sure, again, you can probably appreciate that. You probably know that. But as such, it does present typically with a couple of obstacles that can be really challenging and at worst can really compromise your success. So the first one you might actually be past, and that is actually starting the process. So if you feel like you are ready to go, you're raring to go, you're just waiting for my first video to come out that actually tells you how to tidy your clothing, then you're past that, and that's awesome. But the second obstacle you haven't met yet, and that is maintaining motivation and momentum, and that is really, really hard. Now that's where these 3 steps will really help to keep you on the right path, will pace you really, really well throughout this entire process, and also keep up your energy, that motivation and momentum that I'm talking about. So the other thing that I want to really bring to light, and it's so critical, it's so important that I will be referencing it throughout this entire series, is only ever focus on the category, the tidying task at hand, and nothing more. So the first tidying category, for example, that we'll be going through is clothing. I don't want you, when you're tidying your clothing, to be thinking about the next category of books or even the one after that of paper. I want you only solely ever to think about the category at hand, because what happens is we let our mind run away from ourselves and we start to get overwhelmed and we start to get stressed and we start thinking about things that we're not even there yet for. So I really just, again, want you always to keep at the forefront of your mind only ever the category at hand and nothing beyond that. Okay, so let's talk about the 3 steps. The first one is plan and prepare. The second is tidy, and the third is follow through. So let's begin with plan and prepare. And I did actually reference this in my first video. If you didn't catch that, I'll pop it up in the card, but I'll also link it down below in the description. And I do recommend checking that one out as well. So let's talk about what I mean by plan. This is important because when we leave tidying up to chance and opportunity, 9 times out of 10, it just doesn't happen. Life is busy, we're pulled in a million different directions, and unless we lock ourselves in and we commit ourselves and we make it a priority, as much as going to the gym, meeting up with friends, doing other things, it won't happen. So at the beginning of the week, or even before that actually, like the Saturday or Sunday is actually optimal, plan out your week to include a tidying session if feasible. Now, a little tip that I'll pass along is, especially when you're just starting to begin the process and you're not yet familiar with what tidying looks like in terms of a time commitment for you specifically, add on at least another hour to what you expect the tidying session to require. So, for example, clothing typically takes the average person about 3 hours. Add on another hour, so make it 4 hours. Make that block of tidying 4 hours in total. Also look at what time in the week is most conducive to your schedule. When do you think you're going to be most physically and mentally ready and on board with tidying? Is that an evening? Is that a morning? Is that a Saturday or a Sunday? Factor those things in. The second is share your plan with those that are going to be affected by it. So your partner, children, anybody that could possibly need you when you're tidying, make sure that they have a heads up that you are going to be busy. The third thing that I recommend is seeking assistance if you expect that it will be needed. So this can come in two forms. The first of which is physical assistance. So maybe for a more involved category, maybe you're going through items that are heavy, you need an extra set of hands. Secure somebody well in advance. So it could be a partner, a friend, anybody else. Make sure that they are on board and they are ready and available to help you. Because if you don't, come your tidying session, you might need that assistance and no one will be available to you, and then that's kind of a bust, right? So make sure that you lock these things in well in advance. The other form of assistance may come with childcare or something like that. If you have small children and you're doing an involved category where you really have to be mentally focused in on what you're doing, having children underfoot is not conducive to that. So secure childcare, call the grandparents, get a babysitter, get your partner, whatever you need to do, set yourself up for success well in advance. The other thing that I recommend doing in advance is preparing as much as possible. So look at the category that you're doing. So for example, let's talk about clothing. So in addition to the clothing that you may have in your bedroom that you can easily pull, say from your closet, your drawers, onto your bed or the floor, think about other places in your home where you have clothing. And if you have the space to accommodate this, pull that clothing into your bedroom, into another holding spot, and have it ready to go for your tidying session. And this will limit feeling overwhelmed come your actual tidying session because you have everything ready to go. All you have to do is jump in. If there's bigger items, if there's things that maybe you have in storage, pull those things out, have your partner, have somebody help you if needed, but get those things ready to go. And the other thing that I encourage you to do in terms of preparing is to sort out an option for the things that you are going to deem no longer wanted. So set up a pickup collection, figure out donation centers, have a plan in place so that when you're done your tidying, those things can leave your home as soon as possible. Now I do have notes. I haven't referenced them yet, but I'm going to for the second one because I don't want to miss anything that I'm going to share with you. So let's talk about tidying. This is obviously the biggest thing that we're going to be focusing on. And before you jump into each and every tidying session, ask yourself the question of whether you are mentally and physically up for it. Even if you've put everything in place, the kids are out of the house, your partner's distracted, or your partner's even ready to go, if you're not feeling truly ready for it, then there's no sense. It's not going to be productive. Now, I'm going to put a little disclaimer with that, a little tiny asterisk to say, sometimes you wake up and it's like, oh, I don't really want to tidy, but you know, maybe it's a category that you really don't have to think too much on. Maybe you're going through electronics or something like that. You sometimes will have to just push yourself, give yourself that kick in the butt to get it done. But for more involved categories where you know you really need to be focused, you need to be up for it. If you're not feeling there, then there's no sense doing it. There will be another opportunity at some point, okay? Now, for especially the more involved categories, so for quick reference, clothing, books, paper, limit surrounding distractions as much as possible. Quick examples of that would be children for sure, TV in the next room, having your phone going off with text messages or your phone ringing. Things like that. Really give yourself this opportunity to focus on the task at hand because you'll do better. I mean, ultimately, that's what it comes down to. You'll be able to focus, you won't be distracted, and you'll be able to get through it that much quicker. The next thing that I have down is really focusing on striking up a balance between what I call push and patience. Okay, that doesn't maybe make sense. Let me explain it. So there will be times where you have to challenge yourself. That's the push, where you really have to just say, am I ready to let go of this? Am I keeping it? I will go through this in another video. I will fully teach you what it means to spark joy, but I'm just giving you this quick example. So where you really have to challenge yourself in the moment because you don't want to start collecting things that you are sitting on the fence with. But the other thing is you have to sometimes give yourself patience. this is a learning opportunity. This is something that we are training and we're teaching ourselves on that most of us are just not previously familiar with. So striking up that balance is something that every one of us, every one of you will have to come to on your own, but I want you to be cognizant of that when you're tidying. The next thing that I have written down here is to keep your mood and energy overall up and positive. You don't want to start bogging yourself down with negative feelings and with just a somber mood. So think about the ways that you can support yourself. This is kind of one of my coined expressions with clients is, what can you do for yourself that's going to keep you feeling energized and positive throughout your session? Could be instrumental music. I really, would encourage you to refrain from music that you might be tempted to sing along to or things like that, but something like instrumental music played low is actually really relaxing, so that could be a good thing. Tea, a nice warm drink, maybe a candle with a fragrance that you really enjoy. Just these little things, maybe a snack midway through that you really like, or a reward at the end. I've had clients do that where I'll give myself a really nice at-home spa treatment or something after I'm done the session. Just think of those little things that you can do for yourself. The next thing I have is take breaks when needed. You may start to feel, I'm tired. This feels heavy. I need a little bit of a break. Take that break. Go for a walk around the block. Take 15 minutes to just leave the room. Putter around your house, leave your house, as I mentioned, have a little snack, refuel. Don't leave it too long because you don't want to totally disengage, but breaks are important and needed and you should take them. The next thing is stop when you feel down. Listen to yourself. You have a gut for a reason and you need to trust it. If you start to hit that wall, you can't make decisions, you're feeling a little overwhelmed or stressed, that's your cue to put your tidying session on pause for now. The next thing that I want you to do is for every one of the tidying sessions that you have, bring out your notebook. Make those notes. Write in your notebook how you're feeling. If little bits of organizational inspiration come to you or other little ideas, write them in your notebook and organize your notebook by category. That will really help when it comes time to reference. Next thing is when you're tidying, especially within a family dynamic, and there's things that you're not sure of because you don't know if so-and-so needs it, or it could be used for this or that, or you don't even know what the item is. Instead of constantly running out to ask those questions, just set those items aside until the very end of going through everything else, and then bring everything out all at once and have everybody go through it with you, okay? Because otherwise it can just become too distracting and it can really take away from your time. So that's my tips and my recommendations for your tidying session. Now, the third is to follow through. And what I mean by this is to get everything that you have deemed unwanted out of your home as soon as possible. So again, that comes back to the planning and preparing that you've already put in place. So you have your potential collection already scheduled, you have your donation bins already allocated, you know exactly what you need to do to get those items out of your house. Do it as soon as possible, and do it before you begin the next tidying category. For the items that you want to sell, I think it's fine if you want to recoup a little bit of cost, especially for higher items or higher ticket priced items, but I do encourage you to limit that as much as possible because you don't want that to become a secondary project. You really just want to focus on getting these things out of your home and completing the method. So limit the amount that you're going to sell. I always encourage putting a time limit on how long you're going to hold on to these items, sell them, broadcast them, list them, post them in as many places as possible, but I think 2 to 3 weeks max. If they haven't moved by then get rid of them. It always helps too to donate them to somewhere like a women's shelter, foster care family, things like that, because it will make you feel better if you weren't able to recoup the cost, knowing that those items will be appreciated by people that can really make use of them. So the last thing that I will mention to you, and I think I've already said it, but it does bear repeating, is to make sure that you have completed everything that I've shared with you before you move on to the next tidying category, because otherwise you don't ever feel complete, and it's really hard to maintain momentum and to maintain organization when you're still carrying other bits of categories throughout the process. So I encourage you, if you have any questions, if you need clarification on anything, to leave a comment, let me know. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. But also, if you're reading through the comments and you can relate, you can share a tip or recommendation, you can answer a question, please do so. This is all about engagement. This is all about going through this experience as a community. And that's the best way to encourage that, is to interact in the comment section. So, thank you for watching through to this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, let me know by way of a thumbs up. And until next time, take care and be well. Happy tidying. Bye for now.